By sunrise, your name is already gone, and there is nothing you can say that will bring it back. The loss is final because no one is angry, no one argues, and no one explains why you no longer exist to them. You wake in the longhouse before dawn. The fire is cold. Eyes pass over you as if you were smoke. At first, you tell yourself it's a mistake. By nightfall, you know it isn't. This is where it became permanent. Your bowl is placed farther away than yesterday. Your place is still there, but the space around it is widening. No one speaks your name. No one corrects it. You are still alive, still standing among them, but something essential has already been taken. You are being removed without being told. This was the moment that mattered most. Not when a weapon was raised, not when blood was spilled, but when everyone decided, silently and together, to stop seeing you. Most people imagine Viking life as loud and crowded, bound by unbreakable loyalty. That belief is dangerous. It hides the real rule. The greatest threat was never an enemy at the door. It was standing inside your own hall while protection quietly withdrew. And once it withdrew, it never returned. People think Vikings feared death. They didn't. Death was fast. What they feared was slower because it could not be fought. Being cut off. This was worse than punishment. Survival did not belong to the strongest. It belonged to the necessary. And necessity could vanish without warning. Loneliness did not mean being alone. It meant being surrounded and already abandoned. From birth, you belonged to a web that kept you alive. A family, a farm, a name that carried weight. Your labor fed others. Your reputation shielded others. Your obedience kept order intact. In return, the group absorbed risk for you. But that protection was conditional, and the conditions were never written down. Every action was noticed, every delay remembered, every silence measured. You didn't need to betray anyone to become dangerous. You only needed to be unreliable. Miss a gathering, refuse a request. Speak when restraint was expected. Someone noticed, and that was enough. No one warned you. There was no line you could see, no moment you could point to later and say, "This is where it went wrong." You never knew which choice mattered. By the time you felt the shift, the judgment had already settled. That was the moment you stopped being protected. Punishment did not arrive as accusation. There was no confrontation, no chance to explain yourself back into safety. Just fewer words, longer pauses, laughter that bent away from you. At meals, the space beside you stayed empty. At gatherings, conversations slid out of reach. You were still expected to work, still expected to show up, but your voice no longer carried weight. And this is where the trap closed. If you asked what you had done, you looked desperate. If you protested, you confirmed suspicion. If you stayed quiet, nothing changed. Every response proved you didn't belong. You could not force your way back in. Anger only sharpened the distance. Defiance sealed it. Silence felt safer, but silence did not save you. The community did not need to strike you. They only needed to stop standing beside you. And in that world, protection was everything. Winter did not care about your intentions. Hunger did not care about your pride. Without shared food, you weakened. Without shared labor, you fell behind. When you failed, your failure became evidence. This is where it turned irreversible. Isolation became proof. If people avoided you, others assumed there was a reason. If you were ignored, it meant the verdict had already been passed. No one asked what you had done. They watched how long you lasted. And the longer you lasted alone, the more certain they became that you deserved it. This is the part that is never celebrated. Viking society did not run on constant violence. It ran on memory. and memory could not be challenged. Reputation took years to build. It collapsed in days. Once damaged, it rarely recovered. You could fight a man. You could not fight what people remembered about you. Rumors moved faster than truth. Caution followed them. Caution became distance. Distance became absence. Soon, you were alone without ever being told why. And no one felt cruel. They believed they were protecting the group. Removing you kept order predictable, stable, safe. Your exclusion served a purpose. It warned everyone else. This is what happens when you don't fit. This is what happens when you step out of line. The pressure worked because the punishment was visible. No chains, no guards, just the fear of being forgotten. Children learned it early. They watched who faded from gatherings, who stopped being invited, who no longer had help. Adults carried it daily. Stay useful, stay aware, stay quiet when required. Even strength could not save you. A strong man without trust was a liability, and liabilities were removed. Not violently, efficiently. This is where the myth collapses completely. The Viking world was not built on endless loyalty. It was built on conditional belonging. Every bond could be withdrawn. Every smile could hide judgment. Everyone knew it. That knowledge shaped behavior more than fear ever could. People obeyed not because they loved the rules, but because isolation was unbearable. To be alone meant exposure. No one to support your word. No one to share risk. No one to stand beside you when disputes came. Your voice carried no weight, and weightless voices disappear. Eventually, even your presence became inconvenient. Exclusion stopped feeling dramatic. It became routine, quiet, accepted. By the time you understood it could not be reversed, there was nothing left to appeal to. The group had already adjusted to your absence while you were still standing there. They still saw you. They just no longer counted you. Loneliness in Viking life was not an accident. It was designed. It rewarded obedience and erased deviation, not with spectacle, but with silence. The stories told today praise bravery and glory. They avoid the cost, the pressure to belong, the constant awareness that survival depended on approval, because once approval was gone, nothing brought it back. So when you imagine that world, do not picture feasts and loyalty. Picture the fire going cold. Picture your name no longer being spoken. Picture standing among others and realizing no one will help you again. Because the most dangerous thing there was not dying. It was being left behind, fully awake, while everyone else moved on without you.